Hi everyone. Thanks for coming to Creative Mornings. Welcome to Creative Mornings Lausanne. I'm here with my co-organizers.
Morning.
Morning. Yeah, so I think we have you on auto mute, so feel free to engage in the chat. We are also dialed in on the side and in the chat. And introduce yourself. Feel free to rename yourself in the chat. And yeah, welcome. So welcome to our virtual Creative Mornings Lausanne. This is our, I believe, fourth virtual event since the new situation and the pandemic, of course. So I'm really happy you guys are still able to join. I know that it can get tiring to always be dialed in through Zoom and screen share for work as well. So participation is really encouraged. If you don't have your cameras on, I encourage you to turn them on. I think it helps, for us, for Nikki, to see your faces and, give some thumbs up or wave through the camera. Yeah, so please be engaged. Feel free to chat. See who else is in the room with us and follow them. Yeah. So just for some little tips on Zoom and how it works. So if you want to rename yourself, feel free to, rename to your name, your handle, just so while we aren't really here in person, you can still kind of get to know the other people in the community and the people in the room with us today. So go ahead. And then also something that is super useful and that we're going to practice in a bit is the raise your hand feature. So if you go to participants, there's a little sign that shows raise hand, so you can raise your hand, and then if you click it again, it lowers. So I'll just give you a quick minute to find that. Thanks for the ones that are turning their cameras on. I know I see there's more of you with camera off, so I know it's early, so it's also okay. So first, I guess to practice this, raise your hand if this is your first Creative Mornings event. I actually don't see. Did anyone raise their hand? Is everyone a regular?
I don't see anyone.
Yeah. Did you guys see the raise your hand feature? Or maybe they're all regular.
There's a comment saying the struggle is real. Is it activated? Tom, what do you mean? Is what activated? The raise hand?
Oh my Lord. Participants, and then
I can't see the button. Okay. Thank you.
Tom has raised his hand.
Thank you, Tom. Yay, thanks.
If that was the same person that had the struggle. Cool. And then raise your hand if you're calling in from Lausanne. Sometimes I think with these virtual events. So we have a couple of people calling in from Lausanne, it seems. The other ones, are you guys awake? Rocio, I know you're calling. Oh, no, you're not. Sorry, she's on vacation. She's probably laughing at me now. Raise your hand if you're calling from outside of Lausanne. Is that the rest of you then? Come on, guys.
Someone else said they don't see the button.
Really? There's a thumbs up from Victoria.
Cool.
And if you're not calling in from Lausanne, feel free to comment where you're calling in from. I know there's been some events where we have people.
We have Barcelona, Alicante,
cool.
Ireland.
Wow.
Hello.
Cool. So Ireland, lots of Spain. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining. And then raise your hand if you're grateful for something today. A bit gloomy, but I'm grateful it's Friday. Martha raised her hand. I don't know if everyone's on. Oh, a lot. Okay, so your buttons are working.
Now it's working. Yay!
Great. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first Creative Mornings event, welcome. And then I see some familiar names. Not your faces because your cameras are off. But I do see a lot of familiar names, so thank you for joining. So this month the theme is transit, and for Creative Mornings we are a global global organization, and each month a different city decides on a theme. So this month the theme was chosen by Cleveland in Ohio, and they chose the theme transit, and this illustration was illustrated by Alea Ray. And we always have to thank our global sponsors, because without them a lot of the organization would be possible. So we have MailChimp, our marketing partner, and they actually have a really interesting partnership with Vice right now. If you Google, I think, Vice MailChimp, they have a series on essentials around small businesses around the US that have kind of found ways to adapt while interacting with the public. We'd also like to thank our newest partner, Basecamp. I don't know if you're familiar with Basecamp, but those with kind of their own businesses, it's a really interesting way to, like a different way than Slack, to kind of organize your projects and do some project management. So feel free to message me if you have questions around that. So Creative Mornings, as of this month now, we're 219 chapters around the world in 67 countries with about 27,000 attendees per month. So on a Friday, it's always on a Friday morning. We have talks all around the world. So today we're kind of joined with our fellow chapters to have the same event on transit. So I think it's a really cool way to engage with like both the local and global communities. One other thing besides these Creative Mornings events, there's also Creative Morning field trips that you can check out and even offer to kind of host. So people do cooking classes, like yoga classes, and it's been really active actually now that it's virtual, and I've joined like a couple yoga classes. There's some people who just, give, advice on, I don't know, whatever their field is or side hustle is, and it's an interesting way to kind of dial in and engage with people from around the world. So here, this is us here at Creative Mornings Lausanne. We've been around here for about 2.5 years or something like that. It's the same amount of time as I've been in Lausanne, and so I have my team here. We have Marta, which for those of you who are regulars, you know Marta. She was the host before me, and she was the founder. She's kind of how Creative Mornings Lausanne is like alive today. And then we have Maria, who isn't dialed in today, but is our graphic designer, and she's the one who creates all our local event visuals featuring our speakers. We have Elia, who's here, and actually today is Elia's birthday. Yay! Happy birthday. And Elia is helping us with partnerships. So Green Gorilla is our local sponsor today, but she's been doing a great job just understanding how we can still work with our partners or local venues, even though we are not in person. And then there's Thierry. So when we were having our in-person events, he was our videographer, but now we actually have this handy way of just screen recording. So thank you, Thierry. And now I'll have Elia talk a bit about our local sponsor, Green Gorilla. And some of these pictures you can see here from our last in-person event in February at their space on Grand Pont. And yeah, I'll have Elia speak a bit about them.
Big shout out to Green Gorilla. Thank you for sponsoring the event today. And yeah, it's a bit nostalgic looking at the photo from our last in-person event. It's unbelievable that we're now, well, we've found new ways. But so Green Gorilla have 2 spaces in Geneva and 1 in Lausanne, and it's your go-to for a healthy breakfast, a quick snack, coffee, smoothies, and they are helping us today with a few surprise vouchers, and Nikki will have some questions for you after her presentation for the opportunity to win some of that good stuff. Thanks, Green Gorilla.
Yeah, thanks, Green Gorilla. And so now without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker this month, Nikki Symmons, who I haven't even heard her full story, but just from the bullet points, it already seems like she's lived many, many lives. And I couldn't think of a better person to talk about transits. So, Nikki.
Hi, everybody. Wow. Like you said, Ali, happy birthday, first of all. Yeah, it's strange not to be all together. I actually never came to an event, but I really wanted to, and I just know you've been working really hard to make it still happen. So well done to you all, and thank you for inviting me. And I look forward to answering any questions that anyone has. I see a few familiar faces and some people I don't know. So I will try to go through the slides quite quickly so we can get into talking to each other and you know, having some conversations, because that's always the best part of these events. So why this quote? Look for content outside your product. Well, this quote, it just came out of me when I was on stage doing a presentation for the International Hockey Federation while I was in London at a digital event. And for me, it was because we were going through a different phase of our, I guess, what was happening in hockey world. We were selling all of our broadcast rights, which was amazing because we were starting to get some money for the amazing hockey that was happening. But it meant that we were not allowed to show the content on social media. So at the time I was working as the digital manager at the International Hockey Federation. And of course, everything I wanted was content, was showing the goals, was showing the great skills that our players were having, but I wasn't allowed to do it. So for me, we had to rethink our whole digital plan. And that's where this came from, thinking outside your product. And I was getting prepared for this event, and you know, it just struck me that that is what we have to do as well. So we have our product, you know, we have one thing that we do, we train, we go to university for something, but you know, when you stick to just that, you're going to run into problems, especially these days. You see so many people with so many different careers, right? I've had many careers, I'll talk about in a little bit, but you have to think away from it all the time because you're constantly evolving, you're constantly changing, you should be constantly learning. So for me, it was just a quote that came back to me. And actually, they sent me this afterwards. I don't know if you can see it, but they put it into a little block of wood. I know it's probably backwards for you, but they made it for me because they thought it really stood out as a quote. So that's where that came from. And in fact, there was people from Burberry there, and they came to me afterwards and they were like, wow, we're going to do this as well. So we're going to think outside our product of just the clothes and the Burberry models and all of that. So it was really cool. So hopefully I've passed on that message to other people. So yeah, so that was it. You know, I think there's a lot I can talk about. I've only got 20 minutes. So again, at the end, you can ask me any questions. If I've forgotten anything as well, the team there at Creative Mornings, please remind me so you can move on. So my name is Nikki Symmons, as you already heard. I'm Irish, just Irish. So living in Lausanne, it's quite abnormal to be just one country. So, but yeah, I'm just from Ireland. Everyone I know from Ireland, all my family. So for that, but now I'm living in Switzerland. So for me, it's really enriching. I have a girlfriend who's French. So for me, my family is changing and growing into different countries, which is great. I'm a former international hockey player, as you can see there on the left. But now I'm working in business, as you can see on the right. Now, on the right as well, that's another part of my story. I've gone from sport to working in sport to working in the corporate world. So there's a lot, and a lot has happened in my life. I've also been a teacher, my previous life in Ireland. While I was an athlete, I was a teacher. I was a special needs assistant, and I was also a hockey coach. I also played cricket for Ireland at some stage of that time, and I've had a variety of roles throughout that whole time. As I said, being a teacher and being a coach, which was really important for me. I really enjoyed that, passing on my knowledge to the next generation. But then I knew there was something else for me. I knew I wanted to do more with sport. Because it had given me so much in my life that I wanted to pass on and try and use that and make it into a career for me on the other side of sports, so sport business. So I moved to Lausanne in 2013, and I ended up doing a sports master's over here, so sports management master's with AISTS here in Lausanne. And then I worked in the International Hockey Federation for 5 years, and now I'm currently working in Philip Morris. But the 5 years I worked for International Hockey Federation was amazing, but it was also very difficult for me, because you'll see in the next couple of slides that, you know, there was lots happening for me with hockey. It was a love-hate relationship. I had a bit of a breakup, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I just want you, before I go into that story, just transition or transit, as this event is about. I want you to think about it while I'm talking. Think about how you've transit and or transitioned. If you have, if you haven't, that's okay. There's still lots of different things. But I think if you really think you have, there's definitely times in your life where you've made a transition into something else. If you've gone from even from school into university. So think about that, and we can talk about it later. Okay, next slide. So who knows what this is? I think it's one of the top most, actually it is one of the top most recognized brands in the world, the Olympic rings. This was my ultimate goal, my ultimate dream as an athlete, as a young athlete. I also wanted to play tennis forever as well. I dreamt about going to Wimbledon, but that, I mean, hockey took over, but the Olympic Games. So there I am playing. If you click one more, you'll see a little arrow to where I am. That's me as I'm a young Nikki. Playing tennis, hockey, cricket, you name it. I played every single sport. I just wanted to play sport. I didn't want to be in school. I just wanted to do everything else but school. So I set my goal then towards becoming an Olympian right from there. At that stage, if the middle picture, I was about 12 or something like that. I had a coach who was unbelievable. And again, we'll talk about that later, about your entourage and the people around you. So important. But she put that inside me that I was going to be able to be the best athlete I could be, and one of the best in Ireland. And I just kept looking at that, and I kept going for that goal. And, you know, it was when I was about 17 that it came to fruition. I got selected to play for the senior team. So the senior Ireland team when I was 17, which was quite young, but it was great. And I was like, really, okay, this is the way I'm going to go. And after that, another 13 years I played, but there was ups and downs throughout the way. So if you look through the pictures, the top left is obviously, this is why I'm going to talk about transition and what happens. It's a big, massive journey. So for me, the top left, you can see me there on the left-hand side. I'm head and hands because we had just lost a game against Belgium in the final of the Olympic qualifiers in 2012. So we were heading straight towards London. We won every single game of our event, and the last game we lost to Belgium in front of a massive crowd. And for me, that was the third time trying to go to the Olympic Games. So if you can imagine, the Olympic Games are every 4 years. So that's 3 cycles of Olympics. So many years going into that. And we lost. And I was devastated. And, you know, it was very difficult for the whole team. But I played one more year afterwards. And that was it. So 2013, I said I came to Lausanne. And when I came to Lausanne, I was faced with, and anyone who's living in Lausanne, Olympic rings everywhere. You walk to the train station, Olympic rings. It's like they're literally everywhere. Things are called the Olympian, whatever, the Olympic Museum is there, the IOC, everything is in Lausanne. So for me, it was just like, oh, what am I doing? But at the same time, it's another bit of a lesson to take away. You need to face it. You need to face those things. You need to make sure that you're you know, able to talk about it. I went to that master's, and actually the master's was the best thing I did because everyone around me was so into sport. Not all of them were athletes. A lot of them were coming from business, and they were just love sport. So for me, that was like the best thing for me to do because I hated it right then, but they really brought me back and they said, come on, you know, it's always been part of your life. You can do a great thing in sport. So that's where that came from. And then if you go to the other side, well, you have ASDS on the sorry, no, back sorry. On the left bottom, we have ASDS. So I really jumped into that. I was the class rep, and I had to speak, as you can see there, which was great. I did a lot of that. And then I started working for the International Hockey Federation. And lo and behold, I ended up at the Olympic Games in Rio. So, you know, I had this big goal and this big dream, but obviously for me, it wasn't to play in it. It was just to be there at some capacity. That was part of my universe, you know, that was going to happen for me. So I went there. If you see the bottom right, I have there with my partner Sandra, because she was also working there. The one above that is Argentina. I was very lucky, as I said, to be the digital manager. So I was like on the pitch with the players when they're winning, which is amazing. And then above that one is a very special picture. It's me with the Great Britain team, because along the way I'd played with them for probably 10 of the 13 years that I played, a lot of those players. So I saw them develop, and I saw them on the pitch winning Olympic gold when I was there. So that was really cool. So you can move to the next one. So embracing change. If you can play the video, have a watch of this video. I don't know if you can hear that, but I did see Niamh Small come on there. There she is. Smalley is there too, my friend from Ireland, is listening in. I chose this clip because it's really something that I wanted to talk about. It's embracing change. So what happened was, we used to take penalties like you do in football, just you and the goalkeeper, right? And then hockey decided to change it and make it a bit more dynamic, which is amazing. Hockey is super forward thinking like that. So now it was going to be a one-on-one, proper one. So you had 8 seconds to score, and you had to go and score, and whistle went and off you went. So this was where like a lot of changes came. It was around 2010, 2013, into 2013, where I was kind of at the end of my career, but all these changes were happening. And I was like, okay, well, will I just let everyone else do it, or will I learn it? And that's different. And that's what I brought forward into my career as a business as well, is always learning new things, right? Change direction, things happen, things change. You have to be adaptable, because otherwise you'd be left behind. And that's what I felt at the time. I said, no, I won't do it. And then I said, actually, I will. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to be the best I can be at it. And yeah, it turns out I was one of the best at it, and I did it for the Irish team as well. So for me, it was like adapting quickly, changing and understanding the change. So asking the questions, why did they make that change as well? And your mindset is really, really important. That fact that you need to learn new things to move on. And, you know, I think as well, practicing and learning from your mistakes is also really important. And this clip is a perfect example of that. That took me probably quite a few months before that, of practicing and training. And Niamh will talk later, maybe if she will, that practicing and learning from those mistakes was like the thing that you have to do. You have to make sure that you try, at least try. And if you fail, don't worry about it, you try again. And that's what happened. It took me quite a few months to understand the best move for me to do. And it, you know, that's just something that that it was really important to me to make sure that I was learning as I went along. Watching this clip, I can also still feel my legs shaking. I think if you saw at the start, it's like about to shake and you're waiting for that whistle. So there's always that as well. So change and new things, you're always going to have that nervous feeling. And in fact, that's a good thing. If you get too comfortable, I don't think that's good. I think you need to make sure you're pushing yourselves outside of those, outside of your box, and trying to back to the start again, back to looking for content outside your product. Make sure that you have other things to give. Okay. The next slide is about your network and your entourage. So for me, this is really important as well. Having people around you, and I think I've said this many times to people, having people who are better than you around you is also really important. Don't be afraid of it. Don't go away from it, because you know what, it's going to make you better. Especially if you're in a big transition. For example, now during this time, you may have lost your job or you're looking to change. Make sure you get people around you that can help you do that in a good way. They're confident, they're positive, because especially during this time, there can be so much negative energy. You need to break away from the people who are more negative and try and get the people around you that are positive. It's really, really critical. I've gone through this with hockey as well, you know, with friends and everyone around you. Like, I mean, I started when I was 17, so imagine when you're 17, What did you want to do? What did your friends want to do? 17, 18, 19, 20, you just wanted to go out, go party, do all these things. I couldn't do that. Not that I couldn't, of course I could, but I wanted to be an athlete and I wanted to do other things. So for me, it was quite difficult to break away from some people that just weren't good for me at that moment. So for me, that is super important. And again, now I'm trying to surround myself with really good people who can help me to grow, help me develop my career, because it's all brand new for me, right? It's all brand new. It's like I'm now in a corporate environment, and a few years ago I was a teacher. So it's such a big change, and I need to learn. I need to be ready to learn from people around me. It can impact your performance, of course, because if you have people who are negative, you will be impacted, right? You won't do the things you want. You may not come to the creative mornings because it might be too early for people. But you know, things like that, you just need to surround yourself with those people, because it will really help your performance. And also the big point of this is not just having a network, but nurturing it, because that is also one tip that you need to remember. It's great having all these people and all these people that you know, big network, but if you don't nurture it, that's not gonna, you know, be the best for you. And sometimes without you even knowing it, it does things. So basically, I'll tell you a story. Is if you go back to, well, you don't have to go back on the slide, but if you think back to a picture I'm on, standing for speaking at UEFA event, that was because I was on a TV show just after I retired, and somebody I knew or knew me just because of that, and he contacted me, and he was working for UEFA, and he knew I was doing the masters, and then I finished the masters working for the Hockey Federation. He contacted me and said, look, hey, will you come? I see you're doing great stuff with digital, social. Will you come and do this event? And I was like, yeah, of course. And like, that was from a contact which I had kind of kept in touch with him a little bit after he contacted me after the event. And you know, that was just something like that. So you never know when it's going to happen. And also when I started my ASTS, or when I applied for my ASTS, I had to get a letter of recommendation from the International Hockey Federation, because I was an athlete and it just was helping. I was trying to get a scholarship. And I had met the CEO 2 years previous, and I kind of kept in touch with him as well. And he was helping me, he was kind of mentoring me a little bit to do this course. So during those couple of years, I just kept in touch with him, and then he gave me a really good recommendation, and I managed to get the scholarship. So just think about that also when you have your network. If you can go to the next one. So coping with pressure in a fast-paced environment. So I think as I was an athlete, obviously it's always fast as you're running around, the ball's coming at you 100 miles an hour. But it also works in business, because you know, business is very fast-paced, especially some of the ones we work in here. It's global, it's 24 hours. You know, there's so many things happening in global companies that this can work for there too. And you need to learn how to cope with that pressure. How do you do it? Do you sit at your desk all day long and try and get the work done, or do you get up and you go and do something, or do you have other things going on, not just work? And that's super important, because we felt the same as athletes. I'm adamant that it was better for me to have a job as well. As much as it was difficult, it was better for me to have a job and be an athlete, because being just one thing is really, really difficult. You see it so many times with footballers, with professional athletes who are only doing one thing. They just get, you know, it's very difficult for them because they have nothing else. So for me, that's another thing that you can do to cope under pressure. I think what you can do is watch this clip first, and then I can talk through the rest. Not sure if you can hear it, but I don't know if you can see it, but hopefully you can. Think about what you just saw. What's happening? Why would I choose this clip? Why did I choose this clip as well? There's many moving parts, just like life. There's my teammates, there's myself, there's my opposition, there's the umpire, there's the bench behind me shouting. I don't know if you could hear, if you heard it, but there's people shouting everywhere. There's a French player, so this is France we're playing against, coming and running at me. There's just so much happening, and this is the same in life, right? You have different pressures from coming from your boss, from your partner, from your kids, from your, I don't know, the person down the street sometimes, or you're driving, you have people beeping, whatever, you have everything like that, right? So all the time you've got these things. So how do you cope with that? Okay. And you know what, for me, the main thing is preparation. So you need to prepare for this. So if you look at that, make sure that your foundation is solid, because if you look at that clip again, I'm not sure if you can, but I'm standing there, I can see everything happening. I'm run back a little bit, and then my teammate hits the ball at me. But yeah, so if you see here, I'm running back to get in position. Then I settle, she hits the ball at me, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but it's up here. So in training, we would have been like, okay, I'm here, get it here, nice and gently onto my stick. She hit it up here. So because I was so prepared, I stopped myself, went, okay, we've done this before. Whatever she throws at me, I'll be able to deal with it. So that's exactly what happens. And then you have learning from competition too. So I had seen how France were going to pressure us on lots of videos. So I had understood what they were going to do. So I knew there was going to be a player coming here. So I was really prepared for that. And then focus on the task at hand. So I knew that what I had to do was either stop the ball or pass it to my teammate here, because we had done it so many times, right? So I just focused on that task, and that's what happened. Try not to get distracted. I didn't get distracted by the umpire being there, by the player running at me, by the person screaming. I just did my job. Okay, and the last thing is to ask for support. I mean, the funny thing is the pass I got from my friend isn't the most friendly one, but I was supporting her because, you know what, she made a pass that wasn't great, but I supported her by doing the right thing afterwards. Okay, so the real thing is to ask for support, and don't be afraid to ask for support, because that also can help you when you're coping under pressure in a fast-paced environment. And then, I mean, I did want to talk a little bit, but I think we can afterwards, but the next slide is about, the final thought is that always keep your eye on the ball. So this is a great saying that my granddad used to tell me for all the time. Every time I went out to play cricket, hockey, rugby, whatever I was doing, tennis, he would say, always keep your eye on the ball. And it's so, so true. Because if you play these games, you can see that, especially in cricket and tennis, make sure that you're keeping your eye on the ball so you can actually pass what you want to do. But it's also relevant in business. So keeping the eye on the ball is, I'm talking about what you're doing. So you have a goal, keep your eye on that goal. Okay, even if there's stuff coming outside, try and keep your eye on that ball. Do it in small steps. And I think that's the last final thought I have on that. But I do know I did forget a few things that I was meant to say in the notes that were in my email. So I can talk about that now. So apart from all these sporting things that I've done, the sporting career I've had, moving to Lausanne, all of those things. I've also do a lot of work with diversity and inclusion. I'm a gay woman, and I'm very proudly out, and you know, an advocate for that. I'm also trying to be a role model. I know I've done a few bits of work back in Ireland. I've been on TV for it. I was on TV last week actually about something else, but we can talk about that later. And it's just another thing that I'm working on a bit. Like I said, thinking of content outside of my product. I was always the athlete, and I wanted to change that. I didn't want to be just introduced as an athlete every time. I got sick of it. I loved it at the same time, but I also was like, you know, I need something else. So I honed in on the other things that I have. So I have been, diversity and inclusion has been part of my life forever. It's like in my DNA. My parents split up when I was very small. My mom got remarried not until I was 6. So she was a single mom until I was 6, which was very taboo back in the 80s. It was in 82, 83. So my mom was a super strong woman and kept us going. And then she remarried when I was 6, and I got put into a family with 4 kids, so which was pretty crazy. And I had to learn, adapt all the time straight away. Like how do I deal with this? I've now got 4 siblings. I've never had anyone before. It was all about me. You know, I was the golden child, and then suddenly I was like thrown into a family. And then when I was 21, I came out to my family, to my close friends. So I came out as gay, and then a little bit after that, I found out that my biological dad was gay. So there's a lot going on, a lot of things that have happened in my life that could have thrown me left, right, and center. But I've now realized that that's just part of my life. And that's one thing that I'm going to use in my transition into the corporate world. So I'm starting to build an employee resource group within PMI for LGBT community, which is amazing. So I'm really trying to work those side things that I have, and those extra gifts that I have from my life, my previous life. So I think and get back to the final thought can be that again, make sure you look at what else you have, not just your master's degree, not just your job. What else can you bring to the table? Because that really, really helps in your career.
Amazing.
You have some questions?
Really quickly, before we jump into Q&A, that was amazing, Nikki. I feel like I'm not someone I would say that is athletically inclined, but I feel like I learned a lot from your talk and could apply a lot of those things to my life. So I hope a lot of you as well who joined.
Yeah, I think you can a lot of things can come across from, even if you just go running in a group, you know, your teammate, or you're in a class. You joined a class in you know, in one of our, what is it, the cycle place here. You've just, you know, you can do that in business. You work together. So why not?
No, but thank you. And really quickly, I know some of you probably didn't forget, but right before we jump into Q&A, we have a couple questions, and get your comment section up. So what we're going to do is ask you a couple of questions that Nikki covered during her talk. I think she covered all the answers. I'm sorry.
I didn't. You know what? I didn't. Oh no.
So let's see, maybe someone will know. But we have some surprises from Green Gorilla that we can give away to the answer. So the first persons who comment with the right answer will win a little surprise. So are you guys ready? You know where to type, or I see a lot of people kind of like getting ready.
Ready.
So the first question. How many international caps did Nikki receive playing for Ireland in hockey?
I didn't tell.
Did you answer? Yeah, I know. I'm like,
Well,
or we can.
Sorry.
Someone says 4. Someone says 3, 5, 7.
I'll go. So good. I'll go for 2.
Yeah.
Gabrielle, you know, come on.
6. Gabrielle, 6. Exclamation. Is that the answer?
Nope.
No one has it. Oh.
90.
Nope.
90.
Nope. Keep guessing. You need to go up higher. It's my fault I didn't mention it.
So how close are we? Like 20. All you had to say 20. Is that close?
No.
Is 2 closer or?
Yeah, it's closer. You need to go higher.
Oh gosh.
More, Victoria.
1,000, 150.
200. Oh, close.
200.
Okay. 208 is the answer.
So 210. 210.
So 210. Who has 210? You're the one.
Who is iPhone?
Who is iPhone?
I think it's Renata.
Who is iPhone?
Renata.
Oh, Renata.
Okay, I remember 2000. Renata, honestly, like, is very
One in every
very good at these Q&As. Somehow, you think she's cheating. I'm kidding.
You weren't meant to Google it, Renata.
Kidding, because I actually didn't know the answer, so there's no.
Well, I was meant to say it in my talk. So.
And then second question, in one photo, Nikki is on the hockey pitch in Rio. What country is the men's team from, and what was happening?
Yeah, you have it right already. First answer.
Who is it?
Marta said Belgium. Renata also said Belgium, but after Marta, so Renata.
No, but
sorry.
the answer, no,
I
it's
think
this
the
one,
answer is
Argentina. The first
Oh,
one.
yeah.
You missed it. It's
Margarico.
okay, so we'll remember.
Marga. Yeah. But does anyone know what's happening? Did anyone say that? A lot of sexiness.
Do you remember what was?
A lot of sexiness. We're with you.
I don't know what the right answer.
I know everyone wanted my job.
Cannot be wrong by definition.
Was it not the qualifiers for London 2012?
Nope.
That's so specific, though. Wow.
Well, we know who's
It's really good memory.
Will I tell you? It was, and everyone wanted my job right then, because I was on the pitch with my phone, my iPod, doing all the stuff that I was having to do with my job. And of course, they're all half naked men, and everyone's like, and then I actually was in some pictures because I was taking all the videos. But it was when they won Olympic gold medal in Rio. So that was the moment. Yeah. I have some, because I had the iPad, and they were doing like selfies with the iPad, because at the time we had a partnership with Twitter, and they just had the iPad there and like taking all these funny photos, and they had gold medals on their posts and everything. It was cool.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Last question. 3. What other sport did Nikki play for Ireland in? I feel like she plays a lot of sports, but what else did she play for
Tom,
Ireland?
well done, Tom.
Cricket, says Tom, and that is correct.
Cool. So we have three different.
Yeah.
That is correct, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think
For research.
For research. I want my free meal voucher, desperate time.
I want to show the picture again.
Congrats to the 3. What was that? What picture? Or. But congrats to all three of the winners. So as a result, I think Elia has kept track of your names, and you want to tell them what they want?
Yes, so I'll be in touch with you for the vouchers, and the vouchers are for a free coffee and 50% off an acai bowl at Green Gorilla.
We're really I'm kind of jealous. And Nikki, you actually get one as well for.
Thank you, Marga. We can go together.
Yay!
I love your blanket.
Yes, I love. Also, thank you everyone for the video on, and I've seen like some fun backgrounds happening, and so thank you. I think that really helps speaker helps us to kind of make sure we're not talking to sleeping people or what. Cool. So now finally, I'll open the floor up for Q&A. So if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll call on you, unmute you, or if you want to just ask directly in chat, whatever you want. And Nikki is here to answer your question.
Yeah, you can ask me anything.
Any questions?
Nikki?
Awesome.
Yes.
Tom
Hi, good morning, girls. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Renata. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you for my coffee, and thank you for the presentation. Nikki, it was amazing. I think you are amazing. I wanted to say 2 things to you. First, I wanted to ask you if you saw that this week Pope Francisco, he was speaking about homosexual marriage, which I thought was really beautiful the way he did it. So I hope you saw that too. So I think that's one side of what you spoke. Yeah. And I would like, because speaking of transit or transition or whatever, I made the exact same transition as you from the sports world to the corporate world. And Corona times made me rethink a lot of things in my decision, both for the good and for the bad. And I wonder if you also went through this movement now that we are all kind of at home. So either way, you wouldn't be on a pitch, as well you are not in the office. Like, did you rethink a few of these things? How is that going for you? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Renata. That's a great question. And yeah, I mean, like you mentioned the LGBT gay marriage there. Obviously, I could have talked loads more about that side of stuff. So I wish maybe we can have another session another time or when we meet up. But it was amazing news, and I'm really happy that he's finally spoken out in a positive way for that. It really helps the community to, especially in countries that it's not yet happening, even in Switzerland, right? We don't have gay marriage in Switzerland, so hopefully that will kick it. It's on its way, but hopefully that will make it go quicker. So that's a great point. Thank you. And the other side, yes, I mean, being at home the whole time has really changed. And like you said, it's kind of the same, you said, because I'm not, on the pitch. I'm now in an office, and now I'm not in the office. I'm now at home. So definitely it's really, really difficult. And I know it's more difficult for other people, for we all have our own journey, because, for example, I'm very lucky. I've got my partner here as well. So the two of us are able to help each other through that. And I know there's many people, especially in Lausanne, expats in particular. I mean, I haven't been home for a year since last November, because I wasn't going to go home Christmas. I was going to go March, and then I couldn't go. So it's been almost a year. So expats, it's very, very difficult. And for me, what I've tried to do is just, again, surround myself with positive people. A bit like what I was saying about my transition from sport to business. Try and surround yourself with those positive people. I know it's difficult, and try and learn a few things as well. I know everyone says that, but it really is something that helps you through it. I'm really pushing on my French. I'm not going to speak right now, but I'm really pushing on my French, getting more lessons, because it's a good time to think about that. It's also a good time to think about, again, what else you can offer, especially Renata, with our big changes in the office. What else can we offer to that company? That's really important. I think that's something you need to work on in these times. Does that answer? I hope.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Cool. And I think we have Tom, then Naim. Sorry if I pronounced it.
There's a question from Gabrielle in the chat.
Okay.
Who is your role model in sports?
Good question. I had quite a few, and it's funny right now, women in sport is a big topic, and I actually had some women role models when I was growing up. I mean, I had Steffi Graf, Martina Navratilova, you had Billie Jean King a little bit before. Yeah, your favorites. Yeah. They were there, they were out there. I mean, tennis definitely went ahead of other sports. I definitely think tennis they were the ones I was looking at. I think that's maybe why I wanted to play tennis, because I could see there was women and they were on TV, and but with regards to hockey, I had one which was Alison Annan, and again it was because of the Olympic Games. I saw her playing on TV. So it's so important, and we actually have a big campaign at home in Ireland right now called Can't See It, Can't Be It. So they're really pushing the media to show more women, and because it obviously works. Like if you see people out there, it works. It's the same in business. That's why we're trying to do a lot of work with women and also with the LGBT community, creating role models in business for the LGBT community, for example, because you need to see people up there who are out and proud to feel comfortable to be out and proud as well. So yeah, I guess, Gabrielle, your answer would have been definitely Steffi Graf. I was loved her so much. I went to see her in Wimbledon, was really lucky to see her play, got an autograph and everything. And yeah, so she was definitely the one growing up. Are you jealous? Yeah.
Thank you. I think Tom offered his question second. So Naim, do you want to ask your question? I can unmute you.
Neve.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. Nikki, what a great speech. I was
Thank
fantastic to listen to. Nikki, you've really been a trailblazer for both LGBT and for women in Ireland. It's been a pleasure to have you as our national representative, and really just to see you doing so well overseas. I have two questions for you, if that's okay. Sure. One is resilience in the time of coronavirus. Obviously, it is never ending, but on top of that, specifically injury, and particularly during a professional career or semi-professional career, whichever you'd like to refer to it as. But resilience must have really happened in the midst of injury. And how did you develop that? How did you harness that? How did you come back from that? The second thing I have to ask you is Tokyo 2020, which is now Tokyo 2021. Is it a little bit bittersweet? Not that you're envious or jealous of the girls who have now qualified, but is it difficult to look at them achieve something which you strive so hard and pave the way for them to do? Or is it a lot of pride that goes with it? Or maybe both?
That's a very good question. I'll start with that one. Yes, you're right. It's a bit of both. Obviously, I would love to be there, but I'm so proud of them. And I think, again, talking about people around me, I brought some people around me to help me to realize that I had done a lot for that way. You know, I kind of helped them. And even thinking back, I trained with a lot of those girls, like in my club. I used to always pass down the stuff we were learning in the Irish team to try and make them better. So I think I realized finally that, you know, I was part of the journey. And I think, well, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So this is my story is actually in this book. And I talk a lot about that, how I ran away. And I literally ran away because I was so upset about not qualifying for London. And I just didn't retire, really. It wasn't official. I did nothing, and that was a big mistake. And it's in that I've talked about it because I never talked about it before. And now I'm so proud of the girls. You know, I still couldn't watch the qualifier. I wasn't able to watch it, but afterwards I was able to, you know, show my support and all of that. It just still was a bit too close to me, even though it was like years ago. But because it was my ultimate goal, I don't think I've ever got over it. And then going to Rio, you know, the men were there in Rio. So that was tough as well, like amazing to see them. But I was just like, I cried every time I heard the anthem. I was just like, this is crazy. But I was also so proud of them. So it was really, really, yeah, a difficult time for me. But for sure, I'm so proud of them. I was obviously working for the International Hockey Federation in 2018 when they got silver medal at the World Cup. That was also difficult. Like, I didn't know how to be with them. I was also interviewing some of them after the games, but I have some great memories of pictures and showing that, you know, the girls, I was so proud, but it was hard. It was tough. But yeah, I think it's amazing for the sport. And I think hopefully we can, you know, next year the momentum can come back, because obviously they've lost it, which is really, I feel really bad for them because they finally made it. Especially people like Shirley McKay, right? She was like she's the same age as me when I retired. So it's like her last gasp to go, and then it's like, oh, one more year. Like, it was just really difficult. And then resilience. I think this for everybody. I had 2 operations during my career: 2016 when I was 26 and when I was 29. And it turns out I have osteoarthritis in my hips, so I had to go through that whole rebuilding. I had 2 operations. The second one was the most difficult because I was trying to get back for the Olympic qualifier going to London, and I was really pushing myself, and it was very hard. I had to break back into the team as well, you know, and all of those things. And to as I said, it was my last chance to go to games, so it was really, really, yeah, difficult time for me. But how I did it again was keeping positive people around me, making sure I was taking the steps. I wasn't jumping. I had to believe and trust in the steps. That's another thing when you're building the resilience. Like, you can't jump ahead, especially with injury. You have to just go slowly. Otherwise, it won't work. But it's very difficult to do that. You just want to get back out there and play. And in fact, I got back, I think, within 8 weeks of the surgery. But it was a slow process and a gentle process. But yeah, I think I can really bring it with me to other things. Like I said, the process, and that's how I built that resilience. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely perfectly. Thanks so much, Nikki. And thanks for being so honest as well. It's great to hear somebody speak so openly and honestly about that. And thanks again, Creative Mornings, for organising the whole event.
Thanks for joining.
It's great to be here. Thanks a million. Thanks for putting it up on Instagram. Wouldn't have seen it only for your Instagram.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Okay.
And Tom, your question? Maybe I have to unmute. I will unmute you now. Yeah. Maybe. Oh, whoops. Hold on. Something's happening.
Yeah, it's good.
There we go.
Is it happening? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
It's sunny. It's sunny on his side of Lausanne.
I love this. This is my first Creative Morning, and it's one of my favorite people, so this is the best time ever. Nikki, we talk about this all the time because we know each other, but the power to harness your own story, I think a lot of people don't think that it's something you can do no matter what you've done in your life. I think you have to have like a previous career as a musician or an athlete, or you need to have these extraordinary things. But I would just reflect on this a little bit more. I find this so interesting, especially now where it feels like the pie is so small for jobs or at your job. People are being made redundant. There's restructuring happening everywhere. And with your story, you have the ability to grow to make your own pie. You don't rely on the one that's in front of you by your career path or whatnot. And I love that so much. So, tell us a little bit more about that. How you even come on Creative Mornings today. You told me how it happened. But so how can people get out there and find their own opportunities based on just what they have experienced in their lives? There's always audiences out there that can connect with your specific path, and I find it's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like these Creative Mornings are a perfect example. It happened because, well, you, Tom, first off, I did a masterclass in Philip Morris, in case nobody knows. Obviously, if you're not working for Philip Morris, you wouldn't know. But Tom asked me to do a masterclass, and it was a longer version of what I showed there, but different lessons that I'm bringing across into the business world. And basically, I got contacted by Elia then and to see if we could go for coffee, and that was it. That's how it happened. And we went for coffee, and she was like, "Would you join our session in October?" So I was delighted. I thought it was great that obviously I'd impacted someone with my story, and I think we all have to remember that we're all role models. You're a role model to someone around you, your smallest little circle. And we talk about that a lot with the IND stuff, right, Tom, that you can influence your circle around you by talking about it. Like, for example, gay marriage. I went and talked to one of our senior managers, and I said, "Look, did you know we don't have gay marriage in Switzerland where we are?" And she was like, "What?" Didn't know. And then a lot of things kicked off from that conversation. So I think, as you said, we can all use our experiences to develop other paths for ourselves, especially in the business world. I think we can get very stuck in corporate in our one job. And it's so important to think about what else you have. What else is interesting about you? What else do you do? Everyone has another story. Like, everyone. Doesn't matter. Okay, I have an extra bit that I was an athlete, but also I went through my family situation, and that, is part of my story too. And sport was a way for me to get out and think of something else apart from my sport as well, or for what was happening in my family. And so, yeah, I think we can all do that for sure. Like, we're all role models. You need to remember that as well while you're doing things. We're all role models to somebody. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I would say to that. But yeah, does that answer your question or your conversation? It's a great conversation, because I think people forget that they have other things, right?
Yeah.
We get stuck and we forget we have all this other life and how we grew up, where we grew up. Especially in Lausanne, I love meeting people from all different countries now, because you have such different stories, like, to tell how you grew up. What happened in your country was very different to how I grew up in Ireland, and it's amazing. Gabrielle. Okay, yes, I was on TV.
No,
look at that blonde hair, bloody hell. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, what did you say?
King of backgrounds. I've seen all the time.
How many pictures have you put up, Gabrielle?
That is amazing.
He had like a whole animated thing, but it gave him that.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even know you could do that, and it's you switch them really quickly.
Oh, it's Dublin.
It's really nice.
Yes, Gabrielle. Luciana Aymar is definitely one of my other idols.
I think Elia actually had one more question, and then I think
sure.
We'll slowly close the call.
You have one. Okay, so first of all, thank you, Nikki. When I heard you do the talk in Philip Morris, and then looking at Creative Mornings themes, and I saw transit, and I immediately thought of you. Well, first I have a comment from your previous answer on one of the questions. I'm also a big tennis fan, so an autograph from Steffi Graf is like life goals. Can I touch it?
I have it here in Lausanne. My mom sent it over.
But so speaking of transit, and I think this is really, an impressive story. I guess for me, the question is like, how do you know when it's the right time to move away from something? Because it's never like a ding, oh, that's it, I'm done. And it takes, it's a process, I think. How do you break away from the past and just like transit to something?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's funny you say that. Like, I think athletes, as me, I mean, look, I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be an athlete. And I never thought that day would come that I would be like, oh, I have to stop. And it did. It happened one day. And again, I speak about it in a few different things and in this book as well. One day we lost. It was our club final and we lost. And I think it was the year after London we lost, and it was just one more loss. And I was just like, I just went to my brother and just started crying. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. So literally that was it. I think that then I was like, okay, how do I do it? But also I had injuries, so that's a bit different to a career in business. But I think in business as well, you can have, or wherever you work, you can have ups and downs, right? That just go, okay, enough. Like you've had too many times your boss is at you, too many times you've heard different things, and you're just like, enough. Stop. But you're right, it does take time. With my athletic career, I had started thinking about it. I had a goal of London in 2012 and a few years before that, and not many people were doing that at the time. I was starting to think about the next steps, so maybe 4 years before. But then 4 years later, I still was not, I wasn't over it. So it takes a long, long time, but you have to start that. I think you have to start that momentum, go, okay, where do I see myself next? I mean, obviously you can be happy in your job, but you can also still think about, do you want to be here for 10 more years, or do you want to do something else? You can still be really happy. I was super happy where I was playing, but I knew it was coming, right? I knew that there was a time I'd have to stop. So I started thinking about it, started putting, I guess, the seeds out, started looking at what I could do, thinking about courses I could do. And that's how it all happened. As I said, back to the nurturing your network as well. If you've met somebody, maybe you've met somebody on a coffee or in your cycle class or wherever that is in a different job, you think, oh, that's quite cool, or a different company. Start to plant the seed or start to ask some questions, and then you see where you might want to go. But again, you have to remember the grass is not always greener on the other side. So like coming from sport to corporate, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never worked there. So I thought, there's going to be lots more things. And there is, because it's a bigger company, but you still see the same traits. So it's not always better to make that move. But for me right now, it was a great move. I'm able to do the diversity inclusion. So that was one thing I really wanted to do. So that's why I made the move, actually, because I felt it wasn't happening in sport, and I wanted to do more in that topic, especially women and LGBT community stuff. So I saw that opportunity there to be able to do that as well as my job. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but you can't just jump straight away. You have to put down the foundations before. That makes sense?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Super good answer. Yeah,
a lot of perspective.
And a lot of learnings. I think it's for anyone, no matter what career they're in, and whether you're an athlete or not. I think it's very applicable, and it resonated with me a lot, at least. So I hope the rest of you as well. It seems so. But I know we're getting kind of close to the end. So I don't know if anyone has any more questions, but feel free to find Nikki on her. We have her like Instagram and Twitter handles. Like,
yeah.
To DM her, I'm sure. Or if you have questions on anything for Creative Mornings. Thank you so much for joining. We do have an event in November, so stay tuned. I think you're all signed up for a newsletter and follow us on Instagram and everything, and you should hear more about that soon. We're locking in a date. And thank you so much, Nikki, for the wonderful talk. It was really, really
for having me.
Yes, thank you. And happy Friday, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy Friday.
Thank you. Where's Natalie?
Bye.